Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 51 to 53. Bhutya visudaya yukto dhyatyatmanam niyamya cha shabdanin vishayam tyaktva ragadvesho viyutyascha vivikta sevi lagvashi yatavakaya manasa dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam shamuspasritaha ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam parigraham vimuchya nirmamaha santo brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization.
Verse 54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na suchati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param.
Shobna Mataji, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me.
Verse 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyashchashmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gnatva vishyate tadanantaram.
One who can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service, and one who is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God.
Verse 56. Sarva karmani api shanda kurvano madvaya prashaha mat prasadad abapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam.
Thus engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace.
Verse 57. Cetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya machita satatam bhava.
In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me.
Verse 58. Ma chitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarisyashi atha chetvam ahankaran nashuryashi vinakshashi.
If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost.
Verse 59. Yad ahankaram ashritya nayutsya iti manyashe mityesa vyavayashaste prakritištvam niyukchati.
If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare.
Verse 60. Svabhavajena konteya nibadaha svena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyasya vashopitat.
And under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction. But compared by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti.
Verse 61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddesharjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra ruddhani mayaya.
The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated on a machine made of the material energy.
Verse 62. Tameva sharanam gacha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
O scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will remain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode.
Verse 63. Iti te jnanam akhyatam ghuyad ghuyataram maya vrimseyetad asheshena yatte chasi tatha kuru.
Thus I've explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do.
Verse 64. Sarvagyuyatamam bhuya shrinu me paramam vachaha istusi me dridham iti tato vakshami te hitam.
Because you're my dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your own benefit.
Verse 65. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame veshyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me.
Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my dear friend.
Verse 66. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarva papebhyo moksha shishyami ma suchaha.
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
Verse 67. Idam tena tapashkya na bhaktaya kadachana na chushrushrave vachyam na chamamyo bhayashyati.
This confidential knowledge will never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me.
Verse 68. Ya idam paramam guyam madbhaktesha vabhitsasyasti bhakti mai param
For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me.
Verse 69. Nata tashman manusheshu कश्चिन् मे प्रियकृत्तमः भविता न च मे तस्मात् अन्यः प्रियतरो भुवि.
There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear.
Verse 70. Adya shayate chaya imam dharyam samavadam avyayo jnana yagnena tenaham istahasham iti me matihi.
And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of our worships me by his intelligence.
Verse 71. Shadavan anasusyascha srinuyadapi yo naraha shopi mukta subalokan prapnuyat punya karmanam.
And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell.
Verse 72. Kachide chachrutam partha tvayagrena chetasaha kachid agyana sammoha pranastaste dhananjaya.
O son of Partha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled?
Arjuna vacha nasto moha smritirlabdha tvatprasadan mayachyuta stitosmi gata sandeha karishe vachanam tava.
Arjuna says, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions.
Verse 74. Sanjaya uvacha iti aham vasudevasya partasya cha mahatmanaha samvadam imam ashrosham abdutam romaharshanam.
Sanjaya says, thus I've heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end.
Verse 75. Vyasa prasada chrutavan etad guyam aham param yogam yogeshvarat krishnat shakshat kathayatha svayam.
By the mercy of Vyasa, I've heard that these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna.
Verse 76. Rajan Shamrastya Samvadam Imam Adbhutam Keshwararjuna Yoho Punyam Hiryashyami Chamuhurmuhu.
O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment.
Verse 77. Tacha Shamrastya Rupam Ati Adbhutam Harehe Vishmayo Me Mahan Rajan Hishyami Cha Punaha Punaha.
O king, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again.
Verse 78. Yatra Yogeshvara Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Shir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama.
Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Hare Krishna, sorry for my mistakes.
Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitashu Upanishashtu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Moksha Sannyasa Yogo Nama Ashtadasho Adhyayah. Thank you for the opportunity to recite. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much. Geeta Mataji, your Sanskrit is beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shobna Mataji, for stepping up just like that without any prior notice. Thank you so much for reciting.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mataji. Thank you.
All right. If I can find my screen, give me 1 minute, please. Okay. Right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Madhu.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, we are continuing with the wonderful chapter 18, which is the conclusion. And today we are doing verse number 72. Kachit etashritam partha tvaya agrena chetasha kachit ajnana sammoha pranashtaste dhananjaya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? I'll read the purport because it is really small. The Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. So before we start, we'll just recite our prayers. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नम ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे. All right, so we will continue with this beautiful verse. Very, very important verse because actually, if you think about it, this is the last verse that Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Because after this, Krishna stops speaking, and there are other characters who are speaking, but Krishna stops speaking. So interestingly, the Bhagavad Gita started with a question that Arjuna asked Krishna, and it is kind of ending here with again a question that Krishna is asking Arjuna. So when Arjuna was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and when he asked Krishna to take the chariot in between the two factions, that is the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and he saw all his family members on the opposite side, in the sense that his cousins and uncles and teacher and grandfather, he was completely baffled. And he, in fact, put his bow down, and he said to Krishna that he does not want to fight anymore. And in that state of mind, he turned to Krishna, asking him a question. And this is the very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, that is verse 2.7, where Arjuna says, Karpanidosho pahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyashan Nishitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. So here Arjuna is admitting that he is completely confused because of miserly weakness. He doesn't know what the right thing for him to do is. And in such a state of mind, he says to Krishna, I am turning towards you. I am now your disciple and a soul surrendered to you. So please tell me what is the right thing for me to do. So this is where, when Arjuna turns to Krishna in complete surrender, he says that now I am a soul surrendered to you, and he asks Krishna to instruct him. And that's where Krishna's instructions, which is the Bhagavad Gita, starts. And now we've reached this point here, where Krishna has instructed, given all the instructions to Arjuna, explained everything. Now Krishna is asking two questions to Arjuna. So we will see what those questions are. So the first question that Krishna is asking, and I've used some of the Sanskrit terms here because they are so beautiful. So Krishna is asking that, have you listened to everything that I have spoken with ekagrane, that is with full attention, with your mind, chetasha? Have you listened to what I have said to you with full attention? So this is the question that Krishna is asking Arjuna. And I'm sure that all of us in our spiritual journey, we have heard so many times, time and time again, about how important it is to hear attentively. In fact, we are all aware that it is one of the processes of devotional service. And Prabhupada says that just by hearing attentively, one can actually go back home, back to Godhead, you know. And in fact, Prabhupada says that just developing the taste for hearing and chanting is the first qualification for going back to Godhead. And I thought that this really, we can really learn something from Prabhupada's story. But before that, just one from Srimad Bhagavatam, the second verse of the first canto, first chapter. And I've just taken a couple of points because this verse is really big. In the verse, it says, as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. I'm sorry, there's some background sound. Right, okay. Yeah. So hearing is given so much importance over here, as you can see, right? And in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining the proper method for receiving this transcendental message is to hear it submissively. A challenging attitude cannot help one realize this transcendental message. One particular word is used herein for proper guidance. This word is sushrusu. One must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. The desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification. So again and again, Prabhupada is reiterating the fact that how important sincerely hearing is. And that is actually our first qualification. And when Prabhupada actually met his spiritual master, we all have heard the story of how he met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, first time in Calcutta. But we will talk about how when he met his spiritual master the second time. Now, this was in Vrindavan during the Vrajmandal Parikrama. So it was announced that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur will be giving a lecture, and at the same time there will be a parikrama. So this was in a place called Koshi. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would be given a lecture there, and there would be a parikrama which would be going to a holy place called Shesai. Now, a lot of the devotees went for the parikrama, which one should, obviously, because it is the holy dham. But Srila Prabhupada decided that all of the holy places are in the lotus feet of my spiritual master. And so I just want to sit and listen. And that is what he did. This lecture continued for hours, and there were many people. Prabhupada was sitting right at the back, quietly, with no disturbances. People asked questions and there was discussions, but he just sat there quietly listening to his spiritual master. And then after some time, I think it was probably a couple of years, when Prabhupada was at that time in Prayag or Allahabad, it's the same thing, Prayag. And he was recommended for initiation. And when Saraswati Thakur was there and he saw Prabhupada, at that time he was called Abhay Charan, and he said, yes, this boy likes to listen. He hears very attentively. So see, this characteristic, this quality of a devotee was recognized. And Prabhupada also, that is why, always emphasized so much on hearing. And here Krishna is asking, have you listened attentively? So this question is it's not just for Krishna, because through Arjuna, Krishna is speaking to all of us. So now we are coming to the end of Bhagavad Gita. This is the last chapter. We must ask ourselves these questions. Have we been listening attentively? Because see, we speak so many times that Krishna is non-different to the sound vibration. So Krishna is present in the words of the Gita. And we are so fortunate that because of Prabhupada's mercy and because of all our Acharya's mercy, it's been almost a year or maybe more. I don't remember exactly when we started, but we have been reciting the Bhagavad Gita every single day in association of devotees. And that is such a wonderful and auspicious thing to be doing, because like we've heard many times that Krishna is present in the sound vibration, like how he is present in the holy name. So if we are able to develop the attraction for the words of the Gita, then we will be able to develop attraction for Krishna. So very, very important, this instruction for us. Sometimes, we are listening, but we are not actually hearing attentively. And so we have to learn how to hear with our eyes, our ears, and our heart. If we put our heart into anything, and if we are sincere, then we will see the changes. Otherwise, I'm sure you all must have experienced and heard of people who've been reading the scriptures from the time, they were very young, but there has not been a change in their heart, because you're not getting the message, you're not hearing attentively, you're not hearing with your heart. That is why. So that's that. And then the second question that Krishna is actually asking Arjuna is, after listening with this one-pointed attention, has your ignorance and illusion been completely dispelled? So it's Kachid Ajnana Sammoha Pranashtaha. Whether your ignorance and illusion is completely dispelled, Pranashtaha. So this question actually, this is the effect of listening to the Bhagavad Gita. If you are listening to the Bhagavad Gita attentively, then the effect is that all our ignorance and illusion is completely lost. So um, uh, Krishna is asking Arjuna this question, and Prabhupada in the purport writes that if you are not clear, if Arjuna is not clear, then Krishna is willing to repeat the entire Bhagavad Gita again, or parts of it. Now imagine this, that they are standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where there are soldiers on both sides ready to fight, ready to have a war. And in that atmosphere, in that situation, in that circumstance, Krishna is explaining the Gita to Arjuna, and he's willing to explain the entire thing again. Two things here: the humility of Krishna, that he's willing to explain again, and he's not concerned that there are soldiers waiting. They can wait, because what is being spoken is so very important. See, this is the quality of a genuine guru. And who can be a more genuine guru than Krishna? And a genuine disciple who is willing, who wants to understand. So it is the responsibility of a guru to be able to explain, you know, what what is right for the disciple. And that is what a genuine guru and a genuine disciple is. A disciple should ask questions, should be eager to understand, and at the same time, the spiritual master should be eager to explain to the disciple. Again, you know, if we look at Srila Prabhupada's life, when he was in India, initially he obviously started to he tried to start this kind of an organization, and he started with he was in a place called Jhansi, and he started with the League of Devotees, and nothing came out of it actually. Not many people joined, and nothing much happened. Um, Obviously, he did not give up. When he came to America, also for almost a year, he tried very much to establish something, to talk to people, to get them to understand Krishna consciousness. And even it took him a quite a while, it took him a long struggle before he was actually able to come to this place. This is in New York, which is Matchless Gifts. So it took him a while to start his efforts to get the first few disciples. But Srila Prabhupada was willing to speak for hours. Initially, in the first days, he would speak to anybody who was interested, and he was willing to explain the message again and again and again. He was tireless in his preaching mission. He did not stop for anything. We all know how he would hardly sleep for a few hours because he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, like Krishna is willing, Krishna is ready to re-explain the entire Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada, in his efforts to explain to all these people who had not even heard of who Krishna is, or what is, you know, what is bhakti, he was willing to explain all these things. Now, bear in mind that we talk about bhakti, and bhakti is, it's a yoga process, right? It's yoga. We say bhakti yoga. And I'm sure all of us, we must have practiced some form of yoga at some point of our times. And the main thing that is stressed is how you have to control your mind and control your senses. So the ability to concentrate is the key. Now, imagine if it is the key in this material world, in order to be successful, how important it is that we are able to focus, concentrate, control our mind and senses when we are on the spiritual path, right? Now, here Arjuna was so confused, and he did not want to fight. And after Krishna has explained all of these things, he's hoping that Arjuna has understood. Why was Arjuna so confused, and why did he not want to fight? And we can see that, hold on one second, sorry. So with Arjuna, what happened is, when he came in the middle of the battlefield, he is seeing on both sides, he's got family members. On one side, he's got his cousins, his guru, his grandfather. On the other side, of course, he's got his immediate family, that is his brothers and his, nephew and friends and everybody. He did not want to offend anybody. He wanted to try and please both the sides, and that is why his decision was that he will not fight. Sometimes we also are in this kind of state, where we are trying to please this one and please that one and please everybody, which is not possible. It is not possible. And thus, we are taught in Krishna consciousness that if you please Krishna, if you please God, then you will be able to please everybody. And the analogy that Prabhupada very often quotes is, if you water the roots of the tree, then the entire tree will receive nutrition and will be fine. So that way we have to understand. So now we come to this point where obviously Krishna is asking this question. Have you understood? Why is he asking this question? Then the next step is, if you have understood, what is going to be your next step? Which I will not discuss because the speaker tomorrow will talk about it, but we will apply it in our own lives. So now the point is, if our ignorance and illusion is dispelled, then we can prove it by acting like Arjuna. Now, obviously, we are not on a battlefield like Arjuna where we have to use our bow and arrow and, we have to fight in that way. But I'm sure we all are aware that this material world is a constant battle, right? There are so many dangers in this life because this material world is a place full of dangers. So we have to wage a battle with this material world, with Maya, in order to then progress in our spiritual life. If you see this particular cartoon thing here, it's showing that you cannot have your legs in two boats. If you do that, you will eventually drown, right? Now, the question may be asked that, well, we are in this material world. Yes, we are in this material world and we have to fulfill all our duties and responsibilities. But what we are being taught is, change your consciousness. Everything that you do it in order to please Krishna. Do it as a service for Krishna. So when you bring Krishna in the center of your life, then you will see that you will be like the lotus flower which grows in the most dirty water, but is so beautiful because that dirty water is not able to touch the lotus flower. So we, with our sadhana, with our practice, we have to become like that lotus flower, that we are in this world, but we are not within this world, like that. Another very, very important aspect in this particular verse is, in the purport, Prabhupada says, actually anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. I would just like to ask a few people, what do you understand by bona fide? What is your take of bona fide?
Is it like coming in a disciplic succession?
Yeah, that's one point. Any other comments? Thank you, Kusum Mataji. Anybody else? Bona fide?
Without broken chain from Krishna.
Yes, that's kind of disciplic succession that we are talking about. Yes.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dictionary meaning of bona fide means in good faith.
Okay.
Means in complete submission.
Yes, that is very good. Yeah. So bona fide has got
Without.
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry. Without intention to deceive.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. So see, there are so many different meanings of bona fide. Of course, the main things we understand is, yes, disciplic succession is repeating the message of Krishna, like Bhagavati Mataji said, without deceiving. So not giving your own interpretation, not having your own motivation, only following what our previous acharyas have said and actually repeating the words of Krishna. And that is why when Prabhupada came to the West and he wrote and he published the Bhagavad Gita as it is. If you read in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, it says that even at that time, there were more than 600 versions of the Bhagavad Gita. But the problem was that a lot of them were interpretations of that particular individual. Now, Prabhupada, Prabhupada has a kind of a very weird kind of sense of humor, because it is not funny what he's saying, but he says it in that way. And he says that, who are you and me to interpret what Krishna has said? Are you trying to tell me that you think that you understand this better than Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the speaker? So why are you giving your own interpretation? So the whole idea is that we must hear Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master or his representative. And only then we will hear the message clearly. And the best thing is that, I just wanted a very beautiful story that I want to share with you all. And I'm sure that after listening to this story, you will understand the importance. I mean, I'm sure all of you know, but just listening to the story will actually cement your understanding of the importance of having a spiritual master. So, I want to tell you the story of how Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is actually the Yuga avatar in this age of Kali, he is Krishna himself. And he also surrendered to a spiritual master. So Mahaprabhu was born in Navadvip, or quite a few of us know that. At that time, Navadvip was a center of very, very high quality education. When we talk about education, at that time it was Vedic education. When Mahaprabhu was born, and whenever he would cry, all the ladies surrounding him would start clapping their hands and start chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in fact, he initiated the Sankirtan right from the time he was born. He was a very, very scholarly kind of a young boy. At that time, he was called Nimai Pandit. And he was so good with his Sanskrit grammar that he could defeat anybody. And in fact, he could defeat the most scholarly person. Now, we don't want to go into that story, but he could even defeat the most scholarly person in those times, who was Keshav Kashmiri. So Mahaprabhu was that well versed with his Sanskrit grammar. But the problem was that he did not have any devotion. I should not say he did not display any devotion. And at that time, all the other devotees who were living in that area, like Murari Gupta and Mukunda Dutt and Gadadhar Pandit and all of them, they loved Mahaprabhu, because he was so beautiful that you just fell in love with him. But whenever they wanted to discuss something about devotion or love of God, he would always talk about Sanskrit grammar, and he would come up with these deep philosophy and all of that. So it was very difficult to kind of, how do we, and so in their mind, they were thinking, it would be wonderful if Nimai Pandit could become a devotee. And so their prayers were that, oh Lord, please, somehow make Nimai Pandit a devotee. And then once when Nimai Pandit's father left his body, he traveled to Gaya to perform the Shraddha ceremony. And he was visiting this temple where the lotus feet of Vishnu is there. It's still there. And I think it is the temple of Gadadhar, they call it. And the lotus feet of Vishnu is still there. And when he saw the lotus feet of Vishnu, at that time, some emotions started coming. And at the same time, Sri Ishvara Puri came to that temple. And seeing Sri Ishvara Puri, there were some emotions coming in Mahaprabhu's heart. And even Ishwara Puri, when he saw Mahaprabhu, obviously, Ishwara Puri is, he's an eternal associate. And so he knew that this is the Supreme Lord. He is my worshipable Lord. And they embraced each other. And when they embraced each other, it is at that time that it's almost like the seed of bhakti was sown in the heart of Mahaprabhu. And he was in tears and he was crying. And he requested Ishwara Puri that could you please give me initiation in the holy name, the Harinam initiation. And Ishwara Puri thought, my Lord, you are my worshipable Lord, but you want to teach everybody this, something through your example. And so Ishwara Puri accepted that, okay, he will give him initiation. So why we are talking about this is that Mahaprabhu, through his own example, what lesson we are learning here is that the first 16 years of his life, he did not display any emotions, any devotion. It was only after taking the dust of the lotus feet of his guru that he displayed bhakti in his heart. So from his own example, he is teaching us that only the mercy of the guru, only the mercy of our acharyas and Vaishnavas can sow the seed of bhakti in our hearts. No matter millions and millions of times you may read the Bhagavad Gita, you may know the verses by heart, you may be great scholars, but that does not give you bhakti. And that is what Mahaprabhu is teaching us. And in the purport, Prabhupada is so strongly saying that anybody, it's such a strong statement that anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative is somebody who is repeating the instructions of Krishna. And once you hear that, you will find that your ignorance is dispelled the same way like how Arjuna's ignorance and illusion is dispelled. So it is 8:35, and I will stop sharing because this verse and the purport was quite small, so I was able to kind of cover everything. I hope it is to the satisfaction of all of you. If there are any comments, corrections, additions, please feel free. Any comments?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Nima Mataji.
Really wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you for that. You said about our ignorance in illusion is dispelled, and so we can act like Arjun. Mm-hmm. So in my limited experience, I think that the more sincerely you chant, the more the envy, the ego, the ignorance is dispelled, and your perspective of relationships change, your expectations of relationships change, and that kind of enhances your relationships with everyone.
Yes, very, very true, Hema Mataji. And one point that I would like to add to your comment is that how do you then sincerely chant? That is why, Prabhupada, remember, I think I've said this in one of our previous chat sessions, that when the disciples of Prabhupada when Prabhupada asked his disciples, why have I written so many books? And the disciples said, to give us knowledge, for us to understand Krishna. And Prabhupada said, no, it is so that you can chant sincerely.
Yes.
See, so the whole idea is, yes, you have to chant sincerely, and to chant sincerely, then you have the other auxiliaries wherein you hear you hear from gurus and acharyas, read Prabhupada's book, because then it gives you the firm faith that the holy name is non-different to Krishna, and then you can chant sincerely.
Yes, in the right mood, then it gives you the right mood. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful.
Any other questions or comments or corrections?
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari Mataji.
Mataji.
Thank you so much. It was a really very nice class. Just a small point to clarify. You did say that it's not possible to please everyone.
Mhm.
So, so if we please Krishna,
Mhm.
then we are pleasing everyone.
Mhm.
But my question is,
Mm.
isn't Krishna in everyone?
Hmm.
So,
Very, very good point. Very good point, Kusumataji. And Krishna is in everyone. But please remember that, like us, the other people also, their consciousness is covered. And when their consciousness is covered, although the super soul is within us, are we acting in that way with the realization that the super soul is in me? So if we are not acting in that way, then if I'm pleasing somebody who does not have that realization, then I'm making a mistake, you see.
okay.
So
Yeah.
that is why, if you see in our Krishna consciousness, that is why association of devotees, why is it so much emphasized? Otherwise, we would not have instructions from Rupa Goswami where he says that you must not associate with
Non-devotees. Yeah.
why would you specify that? The point is that everybody at the end of the day is part and parcel of Krishna. So how can we say that he's a non-devotee or this one is a devotee? Point is, it is not manifested. If it is not manifested, then he is not acting like a devotee. He's not acting like part and parcel of Krishna. And if he's not acting like that, then by serving him, it will do me harm. And that is why we are encouraged that we must take shelter of Vaishnavas, we must serve Vaishnavas. So yes, when we look at everybody, you must look at them with the eyes that the super soul is in them. But if they are not behaving like that, another very crude example that I could give is which Prabhupada says that, even the lions and tigers in the forest have the super soul in them. But that does not mean that I will go and hug them because I have the intelligence that it will be harmful to me. So, like that. Hope that helps.
Yes, I like your analogy about the lions and tigers. You're not going to hug them. So that's a very good way to remember. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments or corrections? It's always nice to hear if there are any corrections.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna Joli Mataji.
This sincere chanting, I seem to be battling with it because the beauty of it, when you really touch that sincerity, that lovely, it's like dancing in the wind. It's so beautiful, but it's so short-lived. Why is it we can't hold on to it? I think of so many things. What can I do to get it? I think maybe I'm trying too much hard, but I know I tried something like, Krishna, come, Krishna, be with me. And we have like a little cuddle, and I'm singing his praise, and it's so beautiful, but it disappears so quick. And then my mind goes somewhere, and then I come back, I tried, and it doesn't happen again. Oh, it's such a struggle, really.
Joli Mataji, imagine that a devotee like Arjuna, who is an eternal devotee of the Lord, says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, he says, the mind is so chanchal. So
yes.
It's very, very difficult to control the mind, and all of us struggle with it. All of us, like I'm telling you, I have some days where I feel, oh my God, I'm so disappointed in myself.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of people, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of people go through these things. But, like our gurus and acharyas say, just stick to it. Just do it. Krishna sees the endeavor. There are days when you're not able to do it properly. Beg forgiveness. Pray to Krishna, please help me. Because I'll be honest with you, on your own, you cannot do anything.
No.
Nothing. So you just, at that time, you take shelter of prayers. That's what I always believe. And that's what I've always advised myself, that when I'm struggling, I sincerely just pray. And sometimes I just accept that, okay, there's something not right. Maybe the external factors are affecting me. Like right now, I'll be honest, I am going through some, like probably all the news from India. I've got family in India, and all of that is affecting all of us. And it's been a year since lockdown. There is no social interaction. Man is a social being. So, you find things difficult and you do go down no matter how much you try to be upbeat. So things affect that. At that time, just take shelter of prayers. I am struggling, Krishna. I'm struggling, Guru Maharaj. I'm struggling, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said that, somebody once said that, Prabhupada, I cannot, I can't chant 16 rounds. I can't do this. I can't do that. And Prabhupada said, just hold on to my dhoti. I have backdoor entry. That's what Prabhupada said.
Mm.
So we just take shelter of Prabhupada. Like I said in my last class, that as devotees, the only thing we have is hope that we will get the mercy of the devotees and of Krishna. And that's it. That's all that we can pray for and hope for.
And ever so often we need to tap into these lovely kathas. Your sweet voice are telling us, reminding us, and guiding us. And you're saying you're also experiencing this, which is lovely. It's very reassuring. Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji,
Wonderful.
I believe I was speaking to a friend this afternoon, telling her that, sometimes I'm going through this. And you will not believe what I actually said to her. I said that, this Wednesday evening class, it's not just about this thing about giving class, which is itself great, because when you prepare, it's great. But the fact that I'm interacting with so many people, I look forward to that, because we're all just cooped up in our homes or, doing these. It's just not normal. So when I interact with all of you, I really feel happy, and so I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's lovely, because I know for when I am talking to people, a group, I feel that there's something about the group that is magical. And even when you think you can't make it or you can't do it, there's something that links you together and make you. And the words that come out of your mouth, you can't believe how beautiful it is and how nice it makes all of us feel. It's wonderful. So you are true. You are so true. Association. It's wonderful. Yes.
That's important, and we all should, accept the fact that sometimes all of us do struggle, but we should just not give up. And that is the time that you need some devotees or some association who can kind of push you and say, it's okay, don't worry, you'll get through this. You have these phases. And that's why I think it's so nice that we have these mentorship systems and we have sanghas where, when you're down, you can always speak to your mentor and say, I'm feeling a bit like, not so good. And then, they'll always give you some kind of advice and encourage you. I've experienced that in my life, and I find that amazing that, so it's great. We have this association, all thanks to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, then we can stop here and we will meet next Wednesday. Thank you all for coming together and giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. I really look forward to it. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha.